Recording. Okay. So, welcome to Child's Voices Sports and Hearing Loss Alumni virtual panel. Um, I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm really excited for the great things that I know you guys are going to share. So, I want to introduce our panelists and I'm going to have them share a little bit about themselves. And then we're just going to go through the questions that I have. And then at the end, we can open it up to questions from the audience. Um, so let's start with Pauline and Tessa. Can you share a little bit about sports and where you're in school and grade and all that good stuff?
My name is Tessa Brannigan. I am a junior at Hinsdale Central. I am a competitive figure skater, and I've been doing that since I was like 5 years old.
And she's being very modest. I'm going to have my mom brag moment. She's currently ranked number 5 in the US at her level.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That is really great. Can we come see you skate sometime? That would be amazing.
Sure.
Well, I liked when I got to see you skate at that ice skating event we had. That was great to see you.
That was fun.
That was really fun.
It was. Okay, and then Marnie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marnie Sullivan. I ran track and field at Boston College for 4 years. And my freshman year, I sustained a foot injury. So I had a red shirt my indoor season, and then outdoor season was canceled due to COVID. So I had fifth year eligibility in the NCAA. So I just wrapped up my track and field career at University of Southern California for my fifth year and for my master's. And I'm a middle distance runner. And yeah, I'm super excited to speak with you all today. So thank you so much, Carrie, for having me. And I was born deaf and I have a cochlear implant on my right side. Graduated child's voice in 2000. I always mess this up. 2007 or 2008.
2008, from what I know.
2008. Okay. And yeah, and I was just at Child's Sports a few weeks ago. I got to go back there. I haven't been there in like 7 years, so I was really happy that Carrie let me back to get a little tour of Child's Sports and hang out with the kids. So, thank you for having me tonight.
I'm so glad you're here. Wait, Tessa, will you talk a little bit about your hearing loss and your device?
So I started off with 2 hearing aids as like going through elementary school, and then I changed to cochlear implants, and that's what I have on both ears right now.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Okay, so let's go into, well, we're talking about hearing devices. Let's talk about hearing devices. My number one question that I get asked by parents is, how do you wear a helmet? How do you keep your device on while you're playing sports? So, what are your tips for securing your hearing devices?
Um,
Tessa, you want first?
so for me, I have like double-sided tape that I tape to my skin and then obviously to my device. And then I also wear like barrettes that I clip to like the wire. And then because I have longer hair, I also have my hair covering the device, like the magnet part, into my ponytail.
So just to give you a picture, we'll literally pull her hair back and put a lock over the magnet, then put a clip over the wire, like you said, and then the actual over the earpiece will have the toupee tape so that it's actually taped to the skin behind her ear.
Yeah, and I think for
Mhm.
me, it was a lot of trial and error. So growing up, I played soccer, travel soccer. So originally I had like a red bandana and I would tie the red bandana and that would keep my implant nice and secure. But then so now in terms of running, I use double-sided tape. The brand is called Top Stick. It
Yes.
says men's grooming tape. It looks weird. I promise it's just regular double-sided tape.
Yeah.
So, like on my implant, I put the double-sided tape like diagonal. So I put it diagonal, and then I would fold the corners of the tape to like fit on the implant. and then I mostly wear a ponytail. So then I get these like black elastic headbands from CVS. They have like the sticky on one side, and I would just wear a headband, and then the headband would just kind of keep the cord of the magnet in place. But yeah, just double-sided tape and a headband works for me.
We agree with Marty. That's the best tape. That we use the same tape that Marty uses. We've tried a couple other different brands, but that one sticks the best.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting is I met up with this mom last week, and she has a son who's 8. And because I told her about the tape, and she said her son does not like the tape. So I know there's some people that have different preferences. I know ours is tape, but her son there's like a Nike headband you can use, and like apparently her son doesn't like the implant sitting behind the ear. So like she'll have the implant kind of like tucked in like, or she gets like these thick Nike headbands or like sweatbands, and then they sew like a little like hole in the headband, and then that's like where they put the implant in. I don't know. I'm just mentioning that because I know some people don't like the double-sided tape. So like you could also try to sew a little pocket in the thick Nike sweatband headband as well.
And I know the question people ask us is how well does the tape really hold? Tessa does what's that called, that really fast scratch spin that has a lot of centripetal force. And with her magnet tucked under her hair and with the double-sided tape, her implants stay on, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice, and I'm glad that that works. That's fantastic. Um, so tell me about moisture. How does moisture affect your device? What do you do to reduce moisture?
For me, I don't really have to deal with that as much just because I am in such a cold environment. But I do definitely make sure I do put it in like the dry-ins drawer right before bed.
So I wish I do not struggle as much with moisture, but I definitely do in terms of running and also lifting. I'm sweating a lot. Um, I will say my implant does die a lot in workouts. My freshman and sophomore year, my implant would die mid workout, and honestly, I would get very frustrated. And I have stormed off during one workout because I was so frustrated that I couldn't hear the paces and the reps. But I kind of changed my mindset into so some workouts, if it's raining out or like I'm really, really sweaty, some workouts I don't wear my cochlear implant, and I advocate to my teammates and my coaches. So my coaches know to face towards me when he's talking to me what the reps and paces are. And then I kind of rely on my teammates' rhythm and the space around me to keep myself going throughout the workouts. But in terms of like reducing the moisture, so I will have trap practice for like 2.5 hours. And then right after I have a little break before I have to go lift um, with the team. So sometimes with that 30-minute break, I'll take my implant out and I'll use the travel size dry box. I have it in my locker. So I'll just put my implant in the dry box, and then it will just clear out some of the moisture out before lift. So then when I go into lift, everything's very clear. But I will be completely honest with you, like I sweat a lot, it dies. The rechargeable does last longer than the disposables. Um, but it dies. But I think just having a good perspective on it, like instead of being upset about it, like use your eyes to your advantage and make sure to self-advocate to your coaches and teammates when that does happen.
And make sure you have extra batteries with you because Tessa's had hers die at competitions, and we need to be able to run batteries to her quickly at the rink side. So if you are going to be competing or practicing, always have extra batteries with you.
And I think what's nice is, so I have this like clear bag. It has like my mini microphone in it, cords, extra batteries. So this was really great for me in college because I'm constantly running from practice to meetings to classes, whatever. And my freshman year would just throw my batteries, throw my mini microphone in a bag, and sometimes I would lose it and not be able to find it. So invest in getting a clear bag because then you can see everything in the bag and it keeps everything in one place.
Tessa has a separate wallet and one for her batteries, and that goes everywhere with her. So same thing, have it in one spot. Yeah.
That's a good tip. Do you have any tips for wearing a helmet? I'm assuming you don't ever have to wear helmets. That's
I
something we
mean,
definitely need.
The only thing I
skiing.
can think of is when she was little riding a bike, we would make sure we got the helmet that you can adjust as like a wheel on the back of the helmet. So
Hmm.
you have a slightly bigger helmet, you can, and it won't dislodge your hearing aid or the implant, and then you can tighten it in the back. But I'm not sure if that's available for specific sports that require a helmet.
Yeah, I mean, I think like so like when I was playing lacrosse, with the goggles or like field hockey, I would just like adjust the strap into like how I want it to fit on my head because I know that sometimes the straps from the goggles can like push the magnet off. So I think just like making sure the straps are in the right position that you want it to be.
Okay. What's next? Accommodations. How does your hearing loss affect your ability to perform your sport? What specific accommodations do you ask for? Do you use a remote microphone system?
Okay, so for me, because skating does include like music, especially like during the program, I have to like have like cues to know when to start my music, and like it's definitely I have to talk to like the judges to like discuss with them every single time before practices and before competitions, just to know like what they have to do on their end, like pointing at me and like what volume it should be at. So yeah.
And we're lucky because the United States Figure Skating Association created what's called a skaters accommodation memorandum, a SAM. So it's their version of an IEP for figure skaters. And that actually just started in 2020 or 2021. So we provided our paperwork, the audiograms, etc., and they got her a SAM accommodation pretty quickly. So like she said, every competition they're required to give her a visual cue. For our sport, once you're on the ice, you're not allowed to communicate with your coach. And so when she couldn't hear the music, she'd have to guess or wait till she could hear the music. And with this, now she's guaranteed a visual cue. If there's critiques with the judges, they are required to use her FM system, take her into a quiet room because it's usually sort of in the back hall. So the accommodations are written now, so that's been a lot easier for her to have consistency with her accommodations. Would I like her to use her FM with her coaches on regular daily practice? Yes, but she's chosen not to. She's also in a very visual sport, so she tends to watch what her coaches do, but I'd prefer she used it on a daily basis.
It's okay, Tessa. I mean, this is probably not the best advice for me, but I don't use the FM system as well for practice. Probably could have benefited more from that, but at least for me, I just like to stand close to my coaches when they're talking to me. Also making sure that they face me, and then if anything, like if there's a drill, like a soccer drill going on, I never am the first person to go first. I always have a teammate go first, and then I watch what my teammate does. And I'm sure Tessa, you would say the same. Where we can pick up things very easily. But in terms for me for track, I didn't really use any accommodations in high school, but like towards the end of my high school career and my college career, I like to have a flag start for all my races. Me specifically, like for the 800, you're kind of like looking up, but like when you're in blocks, I actually in high school, I was it was the state championships, and I was the lead off leg. It was the finals. I was the lead off leg for the 4x4. At the time, I wasn't really like thinking much about it, but my mom was like sweating and freaking out in the stands because if I don't hear the gun or hear the command correctly, I could have like maybe full started and disqualified our whole team. I'm glad that she told me that after the race and not before, so I wasn't in my head about it. But yeah, because with the start, you're looking down, so I'm not looking up and reading people's lips. So I talked to the IHSA. And because the IHSA for the state championships, no one's allowed on the track, but they let me have one of my coaches come on the track with me. And then my coaches held on the blocks and repeated the commands after me. So he was right behind me and repeated the commands after me. And then in college, I have the flag star. My coaches were always, I would tell my coaches that. And then my coaches would go talk to the officials, which was nice because then I didn't have to worry about talking to the officials. I just can go do my dynamic warm-ups and get prepared for the race. So my coaches are the ones that handle that. I don't really need the flag star. It's just nice to have a visual cue just in case. But yeah, I think really just stressing the importance of talking to your coaches, self-advocating to your coaches. And then another thing is, so for track meets, my phone connects directly to my cochlear implant. So there was this one situation where my junior year indoor ACC championships, I'm sitting in the team tent and I'm listening to music. I'm jamming out, listening to Drake, and super pumped for my race. All of a sudden, I felt like a tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And it was all my relay teammates standing, hovering over me, like, "Marnie, we gotta go, we gotta go! Like, we've been calling you for 10 minutes. We need to warm up for our race." So I'm freaking out, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I like throw my phone, I like throw everything, and then I started jogging with them. But the thing was, like, they didn't understand that I was listening to music because they can't tell if I'm listening to music. So I didn't want to run into that problem again. So what I did was I bought like cheap $10 over the ear headphones from Amazon. And they don't work, they don't do anything. They just serve as a social cue. So moving forward, when I would go to track meets, I would just have fake headphones, fake over-the-ear headphones, Michael Graham plant. So whenever I was listening to music and like getting in the zone for my races, I just have the fake over-the-ear headphones, and that worked out perfectly because we didn't have another panic with being prepared for my race.
I will tell the parents with the younger kids, definitely use, if you have a remote microphone or FM, definitely use it the coaches.
Yeah.
Tessa does not remember this because she was younger, but she's like, it didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference. But the coaches were like, I wish every kid had cochlear implants in the FM because she'd be across the ice doing whatever pattern they wanted to do, and she was doing it wrong. And they could say Tessa, and they could tell her, and she'd be literally across the ice from them, and she'd make a correction. And with their hearing kids, they'd be screaming their names over everyone else and not be able to get the kids' attention. And they said Tessa sometimes learned things faster because they were able to communicate with her regardless of where she was on the rink. So if your younger kids say it doesn't matter, it really kind of does. So I definitely, if they're new to a sport, have the coaches wear the microphone if you can.
Yes.
Tessa, why don't you want to use the FM now?
So I don't use it now because a lot of the settings are like with other kids around, and sometimes it's like hard to concentrate when there's other collections going on through other students. So yeah.
Like you hear their you hear the coaches talking to other teammates because they
Yes.
forget to mute it, so you're kind of eavesdropping, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But I just wanted to ask, what the specific reason was. We have a kid in a kid in the mainstream right now that's struggling with that because his teacher isn't muting, and so he's hearing everything, and it's frustrating. So
yeah. The other thing you can do is that when she was younger, she's much more of an independent skater now, but when she was younger, we would always arrange her lessons to be first when the rink was a little quieter. So that was always a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. There was less background noise going on.
That's a really good idea. I like that. Okay. I think you answered all of those. Okay. Working with coaches. So, how do you disclose your hearing loss? How do you share best practices with your coach? What are your tips for that?
So for me, I've been lucky enough to have like the same coaches since I was like 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of known for like forever, honestly. And so I haven't really had to deal with that myself, just because when I was younger, my mom would do it for me.
So I would, when she first started skating, I would sit down and actually have a session with the coach and explain hearing loss, kind of anything you would explain to a new teacher at the beginning of the school year, so that the in-services that you did, I would do that with the coaches. What is hearing loss? What does she hear with and without her hearing aids then, cochlear implants now? What helps her hearing? What hurts her hearing? Facing them, all of the things that we would tell teachers, I would do that with the coaches. And she is lucky. Her head coach has been the same coach she's had since she was 4 years old. But we've had coaches added on since then. And even some of the later ones that you've had when you're older, I still sort of, hey, give me just 15 minutes of your time. Let me explain this to you. And we've been very lucky. Every coach has just been, what can we do? Tell me more. So we've been really lucky with the coaches that we've had.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, like you said, like 15 minutes of their time. So like at Boston College, I had the same coach my freshman, sophomore, junior year, but then we got a new head coach my senior year. So, I go up to him practice. I would say, hey, can we set up a one-on-one meeting in your office? I would love to tell you a little bit more about my hearing loss and what works and what doesn't. And so I think really just opening up conversation with your coach, spending 20 minutes explaining what it is, explaining what accommodations work, and kind of just really just opening up a discussion with him.
So when did you disclose, Marnie? Did they just know when you
Well,
were?
that was another thing. It was interesting because like my recruiting process for track, I was always a little nervous disclosing my hearing loss. I don't know. In my 18-year-old brain, I'm like, they might not recruit me because I'm deaf, which is like such a silly thing to think about now. But yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't disclose it until I got to campus. And then I think it was like it's the same thing with like professors. Like I would always send, so before every semester I would send an email introduction, like an introduction email to all my professors. Hey, I'm Marnie Sullivan. I was born deaf. I have a cochlear implant. I was hoping to meet with you for 15 minutes before our class starts next Wednesday so I can show you how the mini mic works and other accommodations like that. So, yeah, I mean, really just asking for 15, 20 minutes of their time and then just explaining it. I always told them like I'm very flexible and I'm very open to any kind of questions. So I think my biggest thing is not being embarrassed or shy talking about it and telling them that like if they ask you, like they're asking you questions so they can help you. So I think like them being curious is a good thing because then you both are able to work stronger together.
And it's okay to remind coaches, because even though you explain it to them once, it's very hard to understand hearing loss. A lot of people assume it's like glasses and you've got perfect
Mhm.
vision. It's not that. So I know one of your coaches would get frustrated because like she wouldn't do it. And I said, she wouldn't do it or she couldn't hear you, and so kind of reminders. How do you make sure she's got your attention? How do you know she's heard you? Ask the WH questions. And don't be afraid to go back to the coach saying, I'm seeing some issues with behavior. Can we make sure it's a hearing loss issue versus a behavior issue?
Yeah, and I think also like even because my implant's on my right side, so like sometimes my coach will be on my left side walking and talking to me like in between sets and reps, and I'll be like, "Hey, coach, can you come on my right side? I can't hear you well on that side." So again, just reminding him, and then he will walk on my right side and will talk to me then. So yes, I think definitely reminding coaches as well works.
Mhm.
That's a really great idea. Um, what else do you want to share? Is there anything else? I think I was going to open up to questions from the audience, but do you have any other tips or anything that you want to share?
I would
Um,
say don't be afraid to try sports with your kids. Because I remember when Tessa first wanted to skate like her older sister did, and I'm thinking, no way. I'm not going to put her on this crowded ice. She can't hear. Some of these skaters are really fast because they're higher level. And I was afraid. And it was actually the coach, my daughter's coach, who said, I'll stay with her. I'll stay by her side. Give me 6 months to try and get her on the ice because she clearly wants to be on here. And I was the one, it was my fear that was holding her back. And I'm glad the coach was the one who said, no, she clearly wants to be on here. Let's give it a try. And you make things work and you could sort of problem solve with the coach. So don't let a sport hold you back. Figure out how you can work with the sport.
That's fantastic. I totally agree with that. I mean, I played all sorts of, yes, I did D1 track in college, but I did all sorts of sports growing up: basketball, tennis, soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey. And yeah, I mean, it's all trial and error. My mom would always say to me, there's always a solution to everything, no matter how big and small. So definitely do not let fear get in the way of trying new things. I also think being in sports, even if you're not in sports, extracurriculars, uh, dance, whatever, music, have your kid be involved in sports or extracurriculars, because that's like track and field is where I was able to develop a sense of confidence with my hearing loss, a sense of belonging there. So I think definitely participating in sports had a huge effect on my confidence. And even if one sport doesn't work out, try a different sport. There's so many things out there. It doesn't hurt to try. And then I guess my other thing is hearing fatigue. I stress I struggle with that a lot in college because I was going from 6 to 7 a.m. lift, and then class from 9 to 12, and then practice 1 to 4 p.m., and then class again, and then a double workout the afternoon. So like there's just so much going on during the day. So I would get super hearing fatigued coming home at night at 7 p.m. And then it's like, then I have all my roommates and they want to chit chat and watch a TV show. So in college, there's never really any time to just like sit and be at peace. So what helped me was I would take hearing breaks in between class, practice, lift, whatever. So if I'm in the library studying for exam, that's in 2 days, I would take out my cochlear implant. One, it would obviously help me study better because I was in silence. But also two, it gives me it's a little self-care thing I like to do throughout the day.
That's really helpful. The listening fatigue is really a big challenge, I think, that I'm glad that we talk about now. And it's great that you've learned what helps you to function and um, not have to force yourself to listen all the time. Yeah, you've got to make the time to recharge.
And I think this is the last thing I'll mention, and then we can open up for questions. So my freshman year, I had a really severe foot injury in my left foot. And basically I was in sports medicine because I had not been running. I got injured in cross country. I was in sports medicine and they had sent me to go get an MRI. And that's where I found out I was in the hospital all by myself. And I remember I was filling out the paperwork and I was like, something does not feel right. Um, and I went up to the secretary and I found out I can't get an MRI because of the magnet that's inside my head. Because in MRI, your whole body goes into the tube to figure out the diagnosis. I think cochlear implants now are MRI compatible, but I say that because double check with your audiologist if you have an injury to make sure it's MRI compatible. I am not MRI compatible, so I couldn't get the scan. To this day, I'm 99% sure it's a stress fracture in my foot. But that was something that was probably the hardest thing I've had to navigate, was finding out that I couldn't get an MRI my freshman year in college. So even though that was a very dark time in my life, it actually was a blessing in disguise because now I'm out here in California. I got to do my 5th year at USC. So I think that's my biggest thing I say to people is that the hard times are temporary. There's something better that's later down the line. So it all works out in the end.
Marnie, thank you for saying that. Part of the reason we chose the brand that Tessa has was at that time, they were the only one that was MRI compatible.
Yeah.
I do believe all three of them are MRI compatible now, but that was one of my fears was her not being able to get an MRI. So
Exactly.
thank you for confirming the choice I made for her at the time.
All good.
That's great. So do we have any questions from the audience at all? I know Lisa had asked what when do you disclose? And I think you answered that.
Early and often.
Early and often, yes. And it's just continuing to advocate for yourself and explain what it's like and what you need, right? And then I put some resources at the end. I created a Google classroom about sports that has links to all sorts of different articles and tips for hearing devices, and that is on our website. You can get to it from our website. And then I found Hearing First has been doing some amazing stuff, amazing videos about all sorts of things, but they've actually done two recently about participating in sports and swimming. And so I thought those were helpful. And then I found Cochlear had a blog post that was about coaches and teams. And oh yeah, Marnie, thank you for sharing that. So you have a personal Instagram and a separate Instagram.
Yeah, so I have my personal Instagram at Marnie Sully, MarneSully, but then I have a separate Instagram called Here and Out. And so I have a lot of videos that I'm trying to pull from TikTok onto Instagram. It's kind of just behind the scenes of what it's like to be a student athlete in college and kind of just my tips and accommodations on stuff like that. But then I also post like funny videos with my teammates and stuff like that. But yeah, so if you want to follow that Here and Now Instagram, it's a little there's more information there about what it's like to be deaf with cochlear implant.
That is great. I really think it's fantastic that you're sharing with everyone, because not everybody knows what it's like to have a hearing loss. And so I'm proud of you for sharing.
Thank you. So
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, I guess not. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really, really grateful for you to share with us all your great tips. And it's just great to see you and hear how well you guys are doing. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night, guys. Nice meeting you, Tessa.
Too.
Good meeting you, Marnie.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Gary.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.